MC Shan could have won the battle simply by ignoring me.
Listen to what I'm saying here. Value is not based on what you own or what you have. Real value is based on what you can do without. It's not about what you can accumulate.
You have to have the courage to solve a problem. Problems exist because people are afraid to solve.
At 60 years old, the man once known as the Blastmaster still carries the reputation of being absolutely unhinged on stage. And 5 rappers learned that the hard way. He was nuts, but here's the thing. KRS-One didn't just destroy people. He destroyed them in 5 completely different ways, and the pattern reveals something far more complicated than the legend suggests. Before we dive in, you need to understand something critical about KRS-One. The man has 2 identities constantly at war with each other. On one side, you've got the teacher. This is the philosopher, the activist, who founded the Stop the Violence movement after his partner, DJ Scott LaRock, was murdered. This is the guy who created human education against lies and the temple of hip-hop, preaching hardcore consciousness to empower youth. He's the loudest voice for the preservation of original hip-hop worldwide. But then there's the Blastmaster. This persona is the antagonist, the fire starter, the boogeyman of hip-hop. He's got an unmatched stage presence and a booming voice, a fearlessness and willingness to battle anyone at any time. This is the KRS-One who posed with guns on the Criminal Minded album cover. His obnoxiously arrogant belief in himself became both his sword and shield. And here's the twist. Every battle he fought was actually the teacher using Blastmaster tactics to teach a lesson. Let's start with the most legendary takedown in hip-hop history, MC Shan and the Juice Crew. This wasn't just a battle. This was a war for hip-hop's entire narrative. In 1985, MC Shan and producer Marley Marl, leader of the powerful Juice Crew, dropped a track called The Bridge. The lyrics said, "You love to hear the story again and again of how it all got started way back when. The monument is right in your face. Sit and listen for a while to the name of the place. The Bridge, Queensbridge." MC Shan later claimed he never meant to say Queensbridge was the birthplace of all hip-hop, just that his crew got started there. But for Lawrence Parker, a homeless kid from the South Bronx who watched hip-hop culture emerge from the boogie down, this was historical revisionism that could not stand. It was a direct threat to the Bronx's claim to be hip-hop's birthplace. KRS-One's response was a 2-pronged lyrical assault. First came South Bronx in 1986. This was a hood anthem that explicitly refuted Shan's claim. So you think that hip-hop had its start out in Queensbridge. If you pop that junk up in the Bronx, you might not live. The song then proceeded to teach history, name-checking Bronx pioneers like DJ Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash. But here's the genius part. KRS-One later revealed that the style of his rapping on South Bronx was actually a parody of MC Shan's style. He opens the track seemingly praising it. Many people tell me this style is terrific. It is kind of different, but let's get specific. Then he masters that exact style and uses it as a weapon to dismantle its originator. After Shan responded with "Kill That Noise," KRS-One returned with what is widely considered hip-hop's definitive diss record. The Bridge is Over. This track was a comprehensive annihilation. The reggae-infused beat was a sonic weapon that effectively ended the career of MC Shan. The lyrics were a systematic, crew-wide execution. What's the matter with your MC, Marley Marl? Don't you know that he's out of touch? What's the matter with your DJ, MC Shan? On the Wheels of Steel, Marlon sucks. This was the blueprint for how to effectively dismantle opponents through the power of words alone. The impact was seismic. Queensbridge native Nas described the first time he heard "The Bridge is Over" as being like a Hiroshima bomb hitting the projects. KRS-One didn't just win a rap battle, he won history. He cemented the narrative of the Bronx as hip-hop's birthplace. The destruction was so total that even 3 decades later, Shan was still refuting the consensus, expressing resentment at the stigma of losing. KRS-One himself admitted MC Shan could have won the battle simply by ignoring me. I'd be nowhere. There'd be no KRS-One. But history lessons weren't enough for KRS. He wanted total domination. And that brings us to PM Dawn, in the moment where the teacher lost control and the Blastmaster took over completely. PM Dawn was a New Jersey-based duo that found massive commercial success in the early 1990s. Their 1991 single, Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, was the first song by a black rap act to top the Billboard Hot 100, but their languid, esoteric sound, where lead member Prince B whispered his rhymes and sang, stood in stark contrast to the aggressive, conscious rap of the Teacher. To the hardcore hip-hop community, PM Dawn was seen as whack R and B nonsense. The conflict began with a direct provocation. In an interview with Details magazine, Prince B dismissed hip-hop's elder statesmen, including KRS-One. The exact quote was, KRS-One wants to be a teacher, but a teacher of what? KRS-One's response was not a diss track. It was a physical demonstration. In January 1992, at New York's Sound Factory nightclub, KRS-One and his crew rushed the stage during PM Dawn's performance. The takedown was swift and humiliating. KRS-One grabbed the mic from Prince B, while his crew literally tossed Prince B from the stage. But the Blastmaster wasn't finished. His DJ, Kenny Parker, threw the DJ out the booth and immediately threw on South Bronx. KRS-One then performed 3 songs before leaving. The destruction was sealed by the audience's reaction. Kid Capri described the scene as monumental. When KRS-One and his crew left the building, the whole crowd left and was walking down the street with him. Supercat, the next scheduled performer, was on stage with nobody left. KRS-One's justification was simple and chilling. He told USA Today, I answered his question. I'm a teacher of respect. This was a non-lyrical, public humiliation that cemented KRS-One's status as the culture's enforcer. By challenging KRS-One's role as teacher, Prince B had provided the platform for KRS-One to demonstrate his lesson on respect in the most Blastmaster way possible. The incident became so famous, it was even referenced on the TV show Empire decades later. But this destruction came at a high cost. It was seen by many as a rash, stupid move. One critic wrote that the incident splintered his fan base because no one knew what was real anymore. It exposed KRS-One to charges of hypocrisy. A true philosopher who founded the Stop the Violence movement had resorted to acts of violence over a verbal slight. But if the PM Dawn incident showed his power, his next feud showed his limits. This brings us to X-Clan and a battle that was far more dangerous than any physical confrontation. In the early 1990s, political hip-hop was at its zenith, and KRS-One and X-Clan were 2 of its most powerful proponents. This feud was a battle for the conscious crown, but it was fought with philosophy, not fists. The divide was clear. Black nationalism versus humanism. X-Clan, led by Brother J, was rooted in black nationalist philosophies. Their worldview was deeply Afrocentric and politically separatist, prioritizing the empowerment of the black community before all else. KRS-One espoused a philosophy of humanism, a more universalist approach, as evidenced by his HEAL project. X-Clan criticized KRS-One's humanist stance, viewing it as a dilution of the black-focused struggle. In response, KRS-One's 1992 track, Build and Destroy, is widely seen as a direct rebuttal. One line in particular, "You can't be human if your music's booming anti-human," is a clear philosophical jab at X-Clan. Here's where things get really interesting. Unlike PM Dawn, X-Clan was very deep in the streets and thoroughly connected, just as Boogie Down Productions was. This was a conflict between 2 heavily respected, politically motivated, and street-credible organizations. The tension was so high that hip-hop pioneer Africa Bambaataa had to intervene so it wouldn't get physical. Back then, even legends could lose. Do you think KRS deserved that loss? Or was hip-hop just moving on? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe if you're deep into classic rap history like this. In 1992, the 2 groups agreed to a formal armistice. They held a joint press conference to publicly announce that the beef was officially over. The resolution wasn't just a ceasefire, it was a synthesis. In the 2000s, KRS-One and Brother J collaborated on a track called Speak the Truth. When KRS-One faced an opponent he deemed a peer in philosophy, street credibility, and lyrical skill, his goal shifted from destruction to dialogue. This ended not with a knockout, but with a teachable moment for the entire culture. And then came his biggest loss. The 2002 feud with Nelly was a high-profile battle that KRS-One decisively lost. This conflict was generational. The old-school boom-bap pioneer versus Nelly, hip-hop's biggest new commercial star. The provocation began with KRS-One. On the compilation track, Clear M Out, the teacher rapped, "You tired of me saying what's real hip-hop? Well, I'm tired of you biting my stuff to go pop." And Sales don't make you the authority. It only means you sold out to the white majority. While KRS-One later claimed the track was not aimed at Nelly specifically, the timing was unmistakable. Nelly's 2000 debut, Country Grammar, had sold 9 million records. Nelly's counterattack on Freeway's Rock the Mic remix was not a traditional lyrical battle. It was a relevance check. He dismantled KRS-One on his generational irrelevance, spelling out the insult. I strike a nerve in old MCs wanting a comeback. Like K, no one here even said your name. R, you really feeling guilty about something, man. S, sad to see. You really just want just one more hit, please. Please, you the first old man should get a rapper's pension. No hits since the cordless mic invention. This verse was devastatingly effective, reframing KRS-One as a disgruntled old man rather than a respected elder. Stung by the disrespect, KRS-One released a formal diss track, Over Here, declaring the real hip-hop is over. More significantly, he called for a public boycott of Nelly's upcoming album, Nellyville, set for release on June 25, 2002. KRS-One's boycott was a catastrophic failure. On June 25, 2002, Nellyville was released and the entire world danced to Hot and Harry. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 715,000 copies in its first week. It went on to sell over 6.4 million copies in the US alone, becoming the 14th best-selling rap album of all time. This battle demonstrated a paradigm shift. KRS-One's traditional weapons, lyricism, real hip-hop authority, and moral posturing were now seen as corny and utterly ineffective against Nelly's massive commercial success. This feud marked the start of KRS's decline in perception for many fans. Nelly had successfully flipped the script, with many pointing out the hypocrisy of the man who posed with guns on the Criminal-Minded cover, now criticizing others for violence. The ultimate Blastmaster was defeated because his tactics were outdated. Finally, we need to talk about MC Search and a feud that never actually happened. The research shows no evidence of a direct feud between KRS-One and MC Search of Third Bass. Instead, their relationship reveals the complex racial politics of the era. Third Bass was one of the first successful interracial hip-hop acts. In an era of intense ideological debate about race and authenticity, Search and Pete Nice were two of the very few white hip-hop artists who were widely respected in the community. The primary connection between KRS-One and MC Search is not a feud, but a collaboration. MC Search was a participant in KRS-One's 1991 HEAL album. This was KRS-One's teacher project, bringing together various artists for a conscious message. An old interview with Pete Nice reveals that the group once, KMD, had beef with Search over a couple of lines Search said on the HEAL album. Thus, the feud was Search versus KMD, with KRS-One as the convener. X-Clan's brother Jay ideologically grouped MC Search with KRS-One, criticizing them together as part of the humanist and integrationist philosophy that X-Clan's black nationalism opposed. This feud is a misnomer. KRS-One, by collaborating with MC Search on the HEAL project, was making a powerful humanist statement. This alliance put him at odds with black nationalist factions like X-Clan. His willingness to ally with Search, a respected white MC, and simultaneously battle X-Clan demonstrates that his humanism was a consistent driving principle. In this case, there was no destruction because there was no enemy. There was a political and philosophical stance. So here's the pattern. Lyrical against Shan, physical against PM Dawn, ideological with X-Clan, generational against Nelly, political with Search. KRS-One's obsession with dominance left him both feared and isolated. At 60, the same man who won hip-hop's first war is now viewed as a relic of a bygone era, respected but no longer feared.